We're certainly not short on contrarian opinions here at Nomad Capitalist, and one contrarian opinion of mine that ruffles the feathers of even some fans is that I don't invest in real estate in the United States. Some people have gone so far as to say that I'm an absolute idiot for not investing in real estate in the United States because of all the tax benefits I could be enjoying and just how easy it is to buy. I'm going to share with you exactly why I've chosen to not invest in U.S. real estate and why I think that if U.S. real estate is your main investment, you might want to consider otherwise. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and I've spent over a dozen years traveling all around the world building a network not only in the real estate industry, but from all sorts of people, from lawyers to accountants. And I've built up a team of almost 30 people who help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where they're treated best, whether it's investing in other countries, getting second citizenships, or even reducing their taxes overseas. And when it comes to reducing taxes, I've gotten comments from people saying, when it comes to U.S. real estate, Andrew's just wrong. I legally pay $0 on my leveraged U.S. real estate income and capital gains. Why would I want to invest anywhere else? Andrew fails to answer this question. Others have said, why do you never speak about the benefit of being a U.S. citizen? I have great cash flow properties and wouldn't want to give up my citizenship. Others say that you can earn a couple $100,000 a year and pay minimal federal income taxes if you merely structure your investments to take advantages. Why would you want to invest anywhere else? And so the premise is that the taxes aren't that bad if you play the game. Now, let's step back for a second. I've run an active business in some form or another since 2005. First in the United States, and now Nomad Capitalist being overseas. Most people who are coming to me, who are running active businesses, are paying anywhere from 30 to over 50% in tax. And as you go beyond those lower six-figure income, I find it's very difficult for people to keep up with all the different strategies, from investments to deductions to keeping their tax bill low. These are all people who in many cases have rather sophisticated accountants, but they run businesses that require reinvestment. They want to enjoy a nice lifestyle. They want to purchase their own home. They want to do a number of different things. And for most of those entrepreneurs, taxes are a very real thing. Now, if you sell a business and you want to reinvest all your money in real estate, then maybe you're going to have an easier time doing that with a minimal tax bill. But let me tell you the most important thing for me with life and money is I want to have control. I don't want to be forced to invest in certain things. I don't want to be investing in opportunity zones or places where I don't want to go. I don't want to be chasing yields merely for the sake of chasing yields. And I know that in many parts of the United States, people are always going to, some small town in Indiana, or they're going to, Arkansas or someplace where I just don't know that I see the future of those places. People go to these Rust Belt areas purely to gain yield. Been there, done that, didn't work out so well for me. Not only was it not the best financial deal, in fact, it was the only deal that I've done in real estate since leaving the U.S. where I lost money was actually in the United States. Didn't lose that much, but it was not a good deal. And the challenge that I found in some of these places that have the yields is it's a lot harder to find good people to manage your properties. The alternative being you go to Los Angeles, you go to New York, you go to Boston, you overpay, perhaps not on a global level, but on a U.S. level, you are paying a lot. You're paying for very expensive property. You're getting relatively low yields. And so while there may be some unicorns out there who are able to perfectly construct their life and their business, the average person is just paying a lot of money in taxes. Now, if you want to make money, as one person who lived overseas said, he said, I'm a U.S. citizen, I pay tax on my income living overseas with a job, and then I invest my money back into real estate in the U.S. If you want to do that, if you want to have a tax-advantaged business overseas, by going offshore, by going where you're treated best, and then you want to funnel some of that money back into real estate in the U.S., you're certainly welcome to do that, whether you're a citizen or not. I mean, you don't have to be a citizen, you don't have to be a resident, you don't have to be anything to buy property in the U.S., and people will manage it for you. But for me, the advantages of U.S. property start to fall apart when you look at the fact that I don't use debt. So the idea of leveraging up things up to the hilt, to me, as a person who, despite what people think, is relatively risk averse, seems relatively risky. My personal moral code, and this is why people call me the goody two-shoes of the offshore business, because they think I take this too far. I don't buy property and make the bank my business partner. When I borrow money from people, I pay them back. So I'm not going out and speculating with banks' money and then hoping it works out, and if not, just walking away. I don't do that. And I don't want the risk of having to buy a property and then a pandemic happens. And I have to hope that the government is going to give me mortgage relief, or I have to hope that I can go and dip into savings and pay the mortgage while I'm not collecting rent, or I have to hope that my tenant doesn't move out, or hope that so much hope from my perspective from having debt. And so to me, that's the number one advantage of buying property in the United States. Now, you're welcome to disagree with me. You're welcome to go and take your after-tax income and buy property in the U.S., whether you're an offshore business owner or whether you're just living and working in the U.S. I'm not mad at you. I personally don't want to have leverage in my life. I also don't really believe in the future of the country. And so I think that the perspective of, is Los Angeles going to be some amazing place for years to come? I think that the Los Angeleses, the San Franciscos, the New Yorks we're seeing in this new pandemic world with people working from home are going to get hit. And so the places that have always been the name brand locations, I think are going to have less appeal. I don't see the trade-off of taking low yields for betting on future appreciation as working. I particularly don't see that as working, considering that foreign investment in the United States, I see those dollars being much more widely competed for by other countries. You see the entire premise of our business, which is there are more and more countries that are up and coming that are actively competing for foreign investors' dollars. The United States has basically closed the door on some of those people in recent years and made it seem more difficult. The IRS has made more stringent tax rulings with LLCs and holding companies for properties. And I think you're going to see some people just decide to give up, and instead of buying in New York, they'll buy in London, they'll buy in Sydney, they'll buy in Dubai. And I think that some of those name brand cities just aren't going to have the cachet that they once did. And you're going to see a lot of people who worked there fleeing to, whether it's the suburbs of New York or whether it's Barbados on a digital nomad visa. You're going to see those places get hit, and you're going to see that the 2% yield you accepted because San Francisco real estate never goes down is not going to hold true. Meanwhile, in other parts of the country, some of these parts are literally being emptied out. Look at where I'm from in Ohio. I guess they've had some resurgence, but my goodness, is Ohio going to be the place where everyone wants to go? In a world where people like me can hire anywhere we want, can hire quality people at a lower price, I don't see how so many parts of the United States work out. And so I just don't see in a competitive world the premium people pay for U.S. real estate is working. And I also don't trust the U.S. government that they are not going to perhaps not take your property. People talk about investing overseas and they say, oh, well, what if the government comes and takes your property? That can be true anywhere. You have eminent domain in the United States. There is civil forfeiture in the United States. The idea that any country will never take your property is, of course, not true. I'm not saying that the U.S. is just going to come and start taking people's properties, but look at what happened in Greece when they went broke. Oh, we're going to raise property taxes 700%. Now, some states in the United States may be better off than others. You think California is not going to find a way to get out of their property tax limitations? You think other states aren't going to do that? You think other states aren't going to impose more stringent rules on investors or creating new tax nexuses? I think that the sky is the limit when it comes to all kinds of new taxes that may not take your property, but effectively make it to where you don't even want the property anymore. I see very tenant-friendly rules that will only get worse. And I look at places like Montreal, for example, where people can literally move into an apartment, pay the first month's rent, and then never pay again, and just keep doing that every 4 or 5 months, and know that they can always be one step ahead of things. I see more places in the U.S. going that direction. And so for me, I'm playing a long game. I'm overseas. I'm out of the U.S. tax net. I can legally make money and pay a very, very, very low rate of tax on that money. And I can afford to pay the long game because my cost of living is lower And I can invest in properties that are lower priced and that I believe are in markets that will go up in value, and that where the government will treat me better, where the taxes on those properties will be lower. I'm not just talking income tax, I'm talking property tax, I'm talking maintenance costs, I'm talking the risk of litigation. I believe that in the United States, you have the highest litigation risk anywhere in the world for people who own properties. Sure, you can put it in an LLC, and with that LLC comes some basic obligations. And even then, your LLC can still be sued and you can have that property taken. Yeah, you can buy insurance. But the point is, there's just so many hassles from my perspective in the United States. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest there. I'm not saying it can't be part of your mix. And frequently people come to me and say, hey, listen, I had a guy recently, I have $40 million in U.S. real estate. I said, great, I don't want you to sell it all. But I said, maybe it's worth considering whether you want to be diversified. And so for me personally, I'm the Nomad Capitalist. I don't invest in real estate in the U.S. As a non-citizen, I don't want the estate tax issues. I don't want the structuring issues. I don't want the filing issues. I want to be out. Okay, that's my personal position. And I think anyone who's leaving the United States, there's a relational benefit. There's an emotional benefit to just distancing yourself and just saying, let me get away from this, whether you're just leaving the country as an expat or whether you're actually renouncing your citizenship. I think starting to distance yourself and letting go of the grip that one country has on your life is important. But I believe that the world is going to change in my lifetime. I believe the U.S. will be a less relevant place. I believe that all these hot markets that have relied on big companies that are increasingly going to be international will be strained. I think that from a legal, litigation, and tax perspective, it'll be more and more difficult to own these properties. And quite frankly, I just want to go where I'm treated best. And I don't take this approach where I'm smarter and I'm going to outsmart the tax man and I've got some trick or some hack that works today. Again, if you want to do that, I'm perfectly happy for you to do that, and we can be friends, and I'm happy to help you get your second passport or whatever else you may need to do. But I just fundamentally have a negative opinion on the U.S. I fundamentally have a negative opinion on the West over a multi-decade period. And I think that if you learn how to buy property correctly at low prices in emerging markets, you can have a lot more appreciation potential. You can be treated a lot better with a lot fewer hassles. You can have much easier, maintenance with your tenants and all that kind of stuff. And you can get pretty decent yields. You can get yields in the countries that we talk about that are in the double digits. I no longer chase yield because I'm looking for great assets. But I'll tell you why I believe in the Tier A parts of many emerging countries over the U.S. and over the West. Because I believe that the remote work phenomenon is much faster to catch on in the Western world. I believe you've still got much more of a prevalence for working in offices, shopping in shopping malls, that kind of thing. You've got more of a culture of that in places like in Asia. And so I think that investing in that kind of property in other markets potentially has a longer lifespan than it does in the United States. And so for all of those reasons, I personally have chosen to simply say, I'm going to run a business which drives my income, and I'm going to do that overseas where I'm treated best. I'm going to take those dollars after being lightly taxed, and I'm going to go and invest that in markets that I think have a lot of potential. And emotionally, I'm going to leave the U.S. behind and no longer cling to the place that is familiar. I'm going to wean myself from that which I've known for the first 20-some years of my life and decide, no, I'm going to go and figure out so that I can share with you and for my own financial benefit how to invest in markets that I believe not only do I want to live in and I can benefit from and serve me in a personal way and serve me with my personal happiness that helps me grow my income from being well served, but that grow my portfolio in a way that I think is long-term, much more sustainable than it would be by only investing in the U.S. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.